that is a watch containing the NH34 Seiko GMT movement. Get this, I picked this watch up for less than £100, £90. That's 106 US dollars. That's got to be the cheapest watch, well, we will ever see containing the fairly new NH34 GMT movement. Seiko started using this movement in the 5KX GMTs. They then made it available for third parties to use. So we have been seeing this movement appear in micro brand GMT watches, but those cost, well, similar to the 5KX GMT, which I think is around £400. That's around $450, $500. So yeah, to find the NH34 GMT movement in a sub £100 watch, well, I almost fell off my chair when I saw it, of course. I couldn't resist the temptation to buy it and get it in for review. Unfortunately, the name on the dial isn't ideal. It is, of course, a Tandorio. Tandorio watches are available on AliExpress, and they represent some of the best value for money watches, well, period. I mean, they generally offer watches with NH35s, PT5000s for around the $100 price tag. There are sometimes weak specifications with the watches, but they tend to also offer things like sapphire crystal and stuff. So yeah, on the whole, these watches represent unbelievable value. Unfortunately, they've got Tandorio written on the dial, but what we do have to remember is not everybody is as fortunate as you or I. We perhaps can afford slightly more expensive watches containing the NH34, but of course there will be people out there that, well, their only opportunity to experience this movement will be in watches costing around this sort of price bracket. So yeah, nice to get this one in to show you guys. Is it any good? Well, we're going to find out in a minute. Right, here it is, a fairly basic cardboard or paper outer sleeve. Here is the inner box. I think the packaging and just the bits and pieces that come with the watch have been improved since I last saw a Tandorio, which is good. And there is the watch. As you can see, I got the black and blue bezel insert version because I'm hoping this has a ceramic bezel insert. Red and blue bezel inserts are quite difficult to make. They cost a lot more to make. They take a lot more time, and yeah, generally they are made of aluminium, but these black and blue bezel inserts are a lot easier to make, a lot cheaper, so there's more chance that this is going to be a ceramic bezel insert. Okay, here it is. I have removed all the plastic, put some power into the NH34, moved the hands out the way, and resized it for my roughly average 7¼ inch-ish wrist. And I can tell you my first impressions are, wow, it's a lot of watch for the money. I opted for the watch with the display case back. You can buy this watch with a solid stainless steel case back, but I went for the one with a crystal in it because I was curious to, well, see the movement. Of course, I could just remove a solid stainless steel case back, but I thought, well, why not just have a look at the movement through a piece of crystal? And I can confirm it does absolutely look like a genuine Seiko NH34 GMT movement. It winds up like a Seiko NH34, and it is a GMT movement. Absolutely. I've tested it, and yeah, it works exactly how I would expect. So if you unwind the crown, it is a screw down crown and a screw down case back, 200 meters of water resistance according to the specifications and the dial. Now, I don't normally call into question the water resistance ratings of watches bought from AliExpress because I've tested a number of watches bought from AliExpress, and they do seem to be well, water resistant. But this one has two pieces of crystal and is rated at 200 meters. Well, on the whole, watches with crystal in the case back are 100 meters of water resistance. There are a lot of brands that offer display case backs, and very rarely are they 200 meters of water resistance. And when they are, they're normally pretty thick because that crystal has to be thicker than it would be if it was steel. But anyway, even if it's 100 meters of water resistance, that's still plenty good enough for a GMT watch, isn't it? But yeah, undo the crown, position 0, hand winds, the automatic GMT movement. First position, clockwise will adjust the GMT hand, as you can see. Anti-clockwise advances the date. Now, because of the way this movement works, it would be considered an office GMT, not a true traveler's GMT. So it's more suited to people that want to know a second or third time zone, whereas a true or traveler's GMT does work slightly differently. You would have a quick set hour hand that would also control the date. So as you traveled around the world, the GMT would be set to the time zone in your home country, and then the hour hand would actually represent the local time. Pull the crown out to the second position and you can adjust the time, and as you can see, the GMT is then linked to the hour and the minute hand. Now let's put the crown back in and wind it up. A surprisingly nice action. Look at that. Caught first time. No signature on the crown, and no signature on the clasp. But that's not actually a bad thing, because they offer this watch with a sterile dial. So if you don't like the Tandorio name, you can get this exact watch and either have it blank or you can put your own brand on it. So yeah, don't be put off by the Tandorio branding. Now the bezel insert does appear to be ceramic. I will check out the lume in a minute. I'm not sure if it's a fully lumed bezel insert, but according to the specifications, it is a 120 click unidirectional bezel. So not a true GMT bezel action. A true GMT bezel would have a 60 click bidirectional bezel, but this is 120 click unidirectional. Let's have a little fiddle. Oh, wow. Oh, man. Okay, that is a surprise. Wow. Listen to that. Man, those clicks, they are super crisp. And the action itself is so smooth and slick. Really nice. Wow. Okay, that is a massive surprise. Yeah, that is a fantastic bezel action. Let's check out the alignment. One more, I think. I've gone past. Yeah, there is some back play to the bezel, but it feels fairly solid, actually. A little bit of back play, a bit of sponginess to it, but the alignment seems to be pretty good, doesn't it? And the alignment on the dial also seems to be pretty good. What about the Cyclops? Well, that seems to be pretty good. And what about the black to blue change on the bezel? Is that happening in the middle of the 18 and the 6? Let me zoom in. It's a little bit low on the 18, isn't it? And a little bit low on the 6, I think. But not bad at all. Not bad. Okay, this is just getting better and better, isn't it? And actually, the finishing seems okay. The bracelet and the clasp are quite loose and jangly. Solid links, solid end links, and screw pins. I've adjusted the size, and they actually were okay. The clasp does feel, quite cheap. Quite a bit of play and looseness in all of the joints. But it does have an on-the-fly adjustment system, which again doesn't feel like the best, but it clicks into place nicely. Have a listen. I mean, that sounds all right, doesn't it? Have another listen. That was undoing it. This is putting it back together. I mean, yeah, it feels solid enough, and it's not coming undone or moving once it's locked into place. So yeah, more than I was expecting, I got to say, for the money. Right, I am going to give the lume a quick boost with the UV lume torch so we can see it in all its glory, but I suspect the lume is pretty weak, and there is no lume on the bezel insert look, which isn't a big deal. This is not a dive watch, so you don't need lume on the bezel insert. But yeah, let's just check out the lume on the dial. I suspect it's going to fade quite quickly. If I remember rightly, Tandorios that I've seen in the past, one of the main weaknesses, and it is generally one of the first things that gets sacrificed with these super high spec value for money watches, is the lume application. Yeah, well, as you can see, it hasn't taken long for us to see that the lume has faded quite a bit in a very short period of time. So yes, don't expect the lume to be great. So in the listing on AliExpress, it does say sapphire crystal, but there's 3 pieces of crystal, including that magnifier. So let's test all 3 and see what we've got. There we go. The main piece of crystal is sapphire. What about the Cyclops? Yeah, that is sapphire as well. If there's sapphire on the back, I will be absolutely shocked. No sapphire on the back. Okay, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so you're probably thinking, well, they've been able to offer this watch for this price because they've got in a cheap batch of dodgy NH34s. Well, I've put this one on the time grapher and it's running very nicely. A very consistent +6 seconds a day. That's not bad at all, is it? That's pretty impressive. Well, maybe the end links don't fit very nicely. Well, I can tell you they are rock solid. The brushing seems to be a very nice, consistent satin brushing. The polishing, okay, it's not going to be award-winning Zaratsu polishing, but actually it's okay. Nice crisp finishing on the bezel insert as well. I mean, I really am quite shocked actually. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be this good. I've been reviewing watches now for 3 years and it's happening less and less often on fewer and fewer occasions. Am I finding myself this impressed and surprised by a watch that I've got in for a review? I knew this thing would be good. I knew it would have good specifications. I knew it would be good value for money, but I have been really quite surprised at how good it is considering the price and considering the movement that's inside this watch. Now, I generally try to keep my unboxing and first impressions videos to under 10 minutes, but I've been unable to do that on this occasion because there's just been so much about this watch that I've wanted to share. I generally film around 15 minutes of footage of me holding the watch and talking about the watches, and I then edit that back down to however long or however much I want to include. But I haven't actually taken too much out of this particular video because, like I said, there was just so much I wanted to include. But editing that footage did give me an opportunity to remind myself of the weaknesses. There are weaknesses to this watch, which you would expect at £90, $106. The black to blue transition on the bezel insert isn't in the middle of the 6 or the 18. The Lume is pretty poor. The on-the-fly adjustment system in the clasp isn't fantastic. The clasp and the bracelet do just feel a little bit cheap. It's rated at 200 meters of water resistance, but yeah, I'm not completely convinced it is a 200 meter water resistance diver. The bezel action is a 120 click unidirectional bezel when it really should be a 60 click bidirectional bezel. But taking all that into consideration, still, I don't think there'd be many people out there that would be disappointed with this watch. I think the vast majority of people that handled this watch, that experienced it and wore it, knew the price, knew the history and the relevance of the movement. They would still be blown away by it. There's just so much to like. The strengths outweigh the weaknesses by a considerable amount. So yeah, if you're interested in buying, well, an all stainless steel sports watch that contains the Seiko NH34 GMT movement, I don't think there's a better value for money option out there at the moment. I am stunned. And of course, if you don't like the Tandorio name, just get the sterile one, or get the sterile one and pay a little bit extra to have your own name or brand or initials or something put on it. Have I like watches put on it if you want, ILW. There's a few of those watches floating around, so yeah. Wow, impressed, very impressed. Let me know, guys, in the comments section if you share my enthusiasm for this watch. I've got 3 more Tandorios that I bought to unbox and share with you guys at some point in the near future. I don't suspect any of them will impress me as much as this one has. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to leave it there, guys. As always, massive thank you from me to you for tuning in. I do appreciate it.